What is up, guys? Stark here with another character spotlight, and in today's character spotlight I will be taking a look at the 5-star servant Ilya. So Ilya is a caster who comes back very rarely in the game, and this is one of the few times she's come back, so I decided to do the character spotlight now during the duration of her event. So if you guys do decide to like this character, you do have the opportunity to pull for her. I myself will probably be doing a few pulls for her to see if I can get her. But we're not here to talk about that, we're here to talk about the character herself. So, yeah, like I said, Ilya is a 5-star caster, and at level 90 she will have 13,825 HP and 10,857 attack. This will rank her 41st overall in attack and 28th overall in HP. So she's got some pretty good stats, although she is a caster, so she will have that lower damage multiplier. Her star absorption is 51, her star generation is 10.7, and on her noble phantasm generation for her hits, she will have 0.32, and then on defense she will have 3%. Now that 0.32 may seem really low, but she does have really high hit counts, so she'll make up for it in her command card deck, which we'll talk about in a little bit when we get there. So overall, I personally like Ilya as a character. I do think she can do some pretty cool things and do some pretty solid damage. Again though, as a caster, she does lose that damage multiplier, so that's unfortunate, but obviously she's a magical girl, and really she couldn't be anything other than a caster for what we have right now. But I will go ahead and talk about her skills. I'll go through them and let you guys know what they do. But I'm going to do this a little bit differently than what I usually do. I'm going to talk about her skills, but I'm going to talk about them in the order that I think you should level them up in. I normally just go 1 to 3, but this time I'm going to go, the first one will be the one I want to talk about the most, the one you should level up the first, and then the second one, then the third one. So first up is going to be the Cheerful Model Mystic Code A, which will increase her own Buster card effectiveness for 1 turn. So this is going to be where she gets the bulk of her damage increase from, and this will be a 50% increase at level 10 on a 5-turn charge time. So this is going to be very good. Unfortunately, it does only last for 1 turn though, so that's a little bit of a drawback, but I guess having a 50% increase for 3 turns on a 5-turn charge time would be just way too strong. So you do want to level this one up as quickly as possible to lower the cooldown as quickly as possible, and also get that bonus increase. So you can just use this multiple times if you do have a 6-turn gap in between using the skill and when you can use it next for a 30% increase in damage for 1 turn. And it's just not going to work too well, really. But that's all it does though, it's just a massive increase to your Buster card effectiveness. Next up is going to be the Child of Nature B, which will increase her own Noble Phantasm generation rate for 3 turns, as well as granting herself invincibility for 1 turn. So this is going to be a very helpful skill in keeping Ilya alive. Obviously that invincibility is going to go a long way, and being able to increase her Noble Phantasm generation rate for 3 turns is going to be very helpful. So that's a 28% increase at level 10 on a 6-turn charge time. Definitely not a bad skill at all. And then third and finally, we have the Suspicious Medicine A, which will recover 1 ally's HP, as well as having a 70% chance to grant self-debuff immunity for 1 time, as well as having a 70% chance to grant Guts for 1 time over the course of 3 turns. So this heal will be for 3,000 HP on a 6-turn charge time, which isn't that bad at all. There is that 70% chance skill there, which obviously has a chance of failing for both of the effects or one of the effects. So that's kind of bad that the effects aren't really that good where you would need to have a chance-based thing, in my opinion. So I'm not a huge fan of that, honestly. But Chloe is getting an upgrade to her skills, being able to increase the chances of Ilya allies to have their skills increase. It's kind of like what Ozzy does, where he has the skill that increases the odds of other character skills succeeding. So Chloe has this skill, so this is going to be coming out with the rerun of Ilya's banner. So if you have Chloe, then you'll be able to use the 2 of them together, and this will be a 100% chance of working. That still doesn't really help it, in my opinion. Having a 100% chance for debuff immunity for 1 time, and the chance of getting Guts for 1 time over the course of 3 turns. Like I said, I really don't feel like it needed that percent-based chance. But if you do have Chloe and Ilya, and you do combo them together, then at least you do have a 100% chance of having that trigger. She does have 2 passives, the first one being the Magic Resistance B, which will increase her debuff resistance by 17.5%, and the second one is the Infinite Magical Energy C, which will increase her Noble Phantasm gauge by 3% every turn. All in all though, I do think she has a pretty solid set of skills. she can do some good damage, she has some good defense, and she has the ability to heal as well. So overall, I think I'll go ahead and give her a 4 out of 5 for her skills. So now let's go ahead and take a look at her command card deck and her Noble Phantasm. For her command card deck, she has 1 quick, 3 arts, and 1 buster. The hit counts will be 3 on the quick, 5 on the arts, 1 on the buster, and 5 on her extra attack. So she's got some really high hit counts, which makes up for her low Noble Phantasm generation, so it pretty much balances out. And she does have the 3 arts cards, so she can do arts chains, so she can get her Noble Phantasm generated fairly quickly. So she'll be able to fire off that Noble Phantasm pretty fast, and which is really good because she wants to use that Noble Phantasm as much as possible. The only drawback is that her Noble Phantasm is actually going to be a buster card, and she only has 1 other buster card, so she can't do buster chains. Like, I feel like this would have been one of the times where, I guess it's not really feasible for most characters because it would be something new. But if you would just take away, like, her quick card entirely and just give her 3 arts and 2 buster, like, I know that's not really something that would happen, but I was just thinking about it as I was recording this. That would be so much better for her, really. She doesn't really need critical stars, and being able to do buster chains on her Noble Phantasm turn and then arts chains on her setup turns would just be so much better for this character. But I'm done ranting about that because that's not something that will ever happen. So moving on to her actual Noble Phantasm though, this will deal significant damage to a single enemy as well as increasing your buster card effectiveness for 1 turn on the overcharge. Now this does also have 2 negative effects. It'll decrease your attack and defense by 10% for 3 turns. So that's a little unfortunate, but it's not really that bad. So you're going to use her Noble Phantasm to do like a whole big burst of damage, and then you'll basically have 3 turns to get it back so you can fire it off again. So in those 3 turns, you're not really going to be trying to deal damage, you're just going to be trying to set up for her Noble Phantasm again, well, when the debuffs run off. So it's not that bad. Ilya will also have a interlude upgrade for her Noble Phantasm when she comes back, so this will actually be able to be upgraded to a better version of the Noble Phantasm. So everything else that I just said stays the same, however the damage will be increased and the buster card increase will be increased. But you're also going to get 2 additional effects thrown in there that weren't previously on the Noble Phantasm. So you're going to be able to increase your Noble Phantasm gain by 20% for 3 turns, as well as increasing your critical star drop rate by 20% for 3 turns. So again, this combos into the whole thing I just said, where you're going to fire off her Noble Phantasm, and then you're going to take the next 3 turns to set up again for that Noble Phantasm. So being able to increase your Noble Phantasm gain is going to help to get your gauge filled, and even the stars will help you if you get those crits on your attacks. So yeah, I think this is a great upgrade to her Noble Phantasm, and the buster card increase as well will go up, and the overall damage goes up to a pretty solid amount. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good Noble Phantasm. So overall for damage, I'm actually going to give her 4 stars in damage. I know she's a caster and she doesn't have too much like offensive buffs, but she does have that first skill with her buster card increase, and she does have her Noble Phantasm, which will do a pretty good amount of damage. So overall, I think 4 stars is pretty good. If she wasn't a caster, I'd probably up this to like 4.5 stars. For her crit ability, I'm going to give her 2.5 stars. This is primarily because of her upgrade to her Noble Phantasm, which bumped this up from like, I don't know, like a 2 or a 1 star. She really doesn't have anything to offer as far as crits go. She's got decent star generation, and she's also going to have that effect for star generation on her Noble Phantasm, so it bumps it up a little bit just because she'll be able to get decent star generation. But yeah, overall she doesn't offer much as far as crits go, so 2.5 stars. For her Noble Phantasm, I am going to give her 4.5 stars. She does probably some of the best damage for casters, for single target casters in the game. So that alone is going to be worth looking into. She's got, you know, high hit counts, and she doesn't have the best Noble Phantasm generation. You know, if you do get that arts chain off, you'll be able to increase your gauge pretty decently. She also does have skills to increase her Noble Phantasm generation rate, so if you combo them together, you'll be able to get your gauge filled decently fast. Like I said, you do have 3 turns to try and get it filled. Now that might not always be possible, but you should at least wait those 3 turns, because you lose the debuffs will go away. And she does have a passive to increase her Noble Phantasm gauge as well. So combo everything together, I think that is a pretty fair ranking. And then for her survivability, I will give her 4 stars. She does have some really good base HP, and she does have 2 skills to help keep herself alive with that invincibility and the heal / guts on her 3rd skill. So, you know, that'll go a long way in keeping her alive. She does have the Noble Phantasm decrease to her defense, which kind of offsets that and will kind of make her, you know, a little bit easier to kill, but it's only a 10% decrease, and like the heal can make up for that, and the invincibility can just completely negate that. And there are definitely ways of getting around that little bit of 10% decrease, so the 10% isn't really that big of a deal. For her versatility, I am only going to give her 3.5 stars. She is a caster, and most other casters are brought in for support, so you're basically using your caster slot for a damage dealer, which isn't always a bad thing, but she doesn't really have any sort of, you know, skills for her allies. She does have the 3rd skill for the heal, but really that's not going to offer too much support. You know, most support characters want to bring in like attack boosts or defense boosts or like Noble Phantasm increases or something like that. The heal isn't bad though. It is nice that it can be targetable to allies, and she does have a very powerful Noble Phantasm, so if you do want to use her in those type of teams where you're just going to go and use her Noble Phantasm and just focus on that and just keep increasing her gauge and then just knocking out the enemies, then that's a pretty solid strategy. And you could also use her with Chloe and do some pretty cool things there. So she does have different teams that she can fit herself into, but overall she's not going to stand out too much as far as support, so I will only be giving her 3.5 stars for that. So overall, I will be giving Ilya a 3.8 out of 5. I feel like that might be a little bit high, but it is what it is. When I go back and do the overall rankings for casters, I might amend her rankings a little, but for now it is what it is. 3.8 out of 5. Decent character. I wouldn't go out of my way to pull for her unless like you like the character in general, or if you don't have any casters. If you have any sort of other 5-star caster, then you're probably not really going to be using her too much. So it is what it is. If you do like her, then by all means go for it, but I think it's a passable character. She doesn't come back too often though, so if you do want her just for like the novelty of having her, then there's always that as well. But that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord, so feel free to check those out, and I will leave you here with Ilya's Noble Phantasm, and I will see you guys next time.
筋系、神経系、血管系、リンパ系、疑似魔術回路変換完了。